Welcome to Season 5 of ComicBook Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and if you're listening to this, you have joined us for yet another one of our bonus round episodes, and this time it was well earned. We have a lot to talk about because just before we came in here, we got the news that we have our new Superman and Lois Lane for the upcoming DC Studios reboot of the DC movie franchise with Superman Legacy, which is being written and directed by James Gunn. And now we know who our Superman and Lois Lane will be. And here to help me break it all down in the Comic Book Studios, I have our other Comic Book Nation regular host, Mr. Connor Casey.
Just a mild-mannered reporter from Kansas.
And long time, he's been out creating new life and taking care of it. But in that time, since he's had a child, we've been missing him, so we had to bring him back. If you have just joined the show recently, you may not have met this man yet, but he's one of our more peppery and versatile members of the comic book team. Mr. Turn Up Charlie Ridgely is in the studio with us.
Yeah, what's up? I feel like I'm not like in my peppery mood today. I feel like I'm kind of jovial.
Well, you're a dad now, man. You like you like had to leash the beast. You're all mild mannered. It's nice. You're all mature now. You're like raising a son. You're like an example of manhood. You know, we've come a long way. But also calling in from home because he's got to hold it down on the home front. Another excellent dad type. The Mr. Matthew Aguilar. I had more, but I just blanked out. I was like, yeah, I feel like I was going to go down a rabbit hole of saying all kinds of crazy stuff. But Matthew Aguilar's calling in. Shout out to Janelle Wheeler, who is, you guys haven't seen, she was out, our other co-host. She's been on vacation, and today she was like, guys, I'm busy. You talk Superman, boys, and I'll see you on Friday. So she'll be back for our regular show, and if you're just kind of signing into this episode to listen to this subject, yeah, Comic Book Nation, we put up live episodes every Friday, our full-fledged, like, 90-minute episodes where we talk about all things geek culture. But today is just a breakout. We have two conversations to handle in this bonus round. One, we're going to talk about the Superman Legacy casting. And two, because I don't know what deal with a witch doctor Connor made, but he gets to keep talking about the Flash crashing and burning because he was the one kind of dissenter from our Flash review on this podcast. But turns out he's getting to live his best life. So
we need a graphic that just, it's time for the Connor Casey victory lap.
Yeah, I mean you doing a Flash animation like from the TV show.
Just the weird speeds.
Yeah, so Connor Casey's going to take another victory lap. But first of all, let's go back at the top and knock out our main subject, Superman Legacy. So for weeks now, we've known a short list. James Gunn and DC Studios have kind of PR'd this very expertly, kind of letting it out who they're looking at, and I'm sure just seeing the reactions from people and not letting that determine it, but I'm sure taking it into account. Because if I think there's one theme to today we can think about is DC does need to take into account what people are thinking and saying, because right now they seem to be, the brand stock value seems to be at an all-time low right about now. So crowd pleasers, blockbusters are the challenge of the day for this franchise when it relaunches, and the casting and the actors and all of this, it's all going to be messy no matter what. And we're going to get into that, about how even with overwhelming positivity to this casting, there's still this dark side of DC that is probably its greatest enemy, which is its own fandom. But this is important stuff because Superman Legacy is the taste setter for this whole franchise and for James Gunn and Peter Safran and DC Studios. And in the central roles, we are going to have actor David Corenswet, which I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with him as an actor. Most notably, he was in Pearl. He had this like really great kind of creepy role in Pearl. And it's like, and I made the joke about like, I don't think David Corenswet, when he accepted that role in Ty West Pearl, knew he was going to be possibly wearing a Superman symbol later, because he really put it down on the creep factor. Yeah. And now we got to go all the way over to good, wholesome Superman, which is, I mean, he's an actor. But he's a Philly guy. He's born in Philly and raised in Philly, so that automatically puts him on my good list, being from Philadelphia. You know, we always like a hometown hero. And in Lois Lane is going to be Rachel Brosnahan, who is no stranger. She's blown up thanks to the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which she is phenomenal in.
Maisel.
Hey, we're not going to get into my upbringing roots, but Mazel,
You say Mazel,
Mazel. I want to go talk to my Yiddish friends, and we're going to break this down later, but that's a different podcast.
Shalom.
Yeah.
It's like that in Corenswet. It's like, is that really how he pronounces it, or is he's gonna throw some pizzazz on it?
As we were talking, though, like Charlie was pointing out, Corenswet might be the best kind of description of a Superman actor you ever could get, right?
The Kansas guy,
Corenswet, yeah.
I'm
They're
from
like,
Kansas.
Kansas.
We don't grow corn. We grow wheat. I'm sorry, guys.
I feel like you guys out there will be like, I don't know that fella, but I like the sound of his name and the cut of his jib, and let's give him a chance.
He's from Philly.
Oh, I know, yeah. Which is great that the wholesome symbol of America is from Philadelphia is going to be my own private joke for, the next
What's
couple
funny
years.
is they might put him in like a Chiefs or a Royals shirt like they did
Stop
Cavill.
it. You stop it. You stop it. No.
Patrick Mahomes, number 15.
Woof. Well, we're talking about Superman, not Patrick Mahomes. Let's go. So what do you guys, in all seriousness, how do you guys feel? I mean, we've had a chance to kind of chat behind the scenes. We've been gabbing in the studio. Maddie, I'm always interested because, Matt, you are our resident DC kind of comics expert. You've been single-handedly championing the Superman comic series and Action Comics the last year or so. How do you feel about this casting?
I feel it's funny. I feel really good about one side of it, and the other side, I'm just like, he looks the part. I didn't see Pearl, and I'm not super familiar with Corenswet's kind of the rest of his filmography, so I'm just not real. I'm not real exposed to the actor. So he looks great in the doctored up Superman image. I just don't have kind of much to draw on with it. Brosnahan is phenomenal. That's a pitch perfect casting. Sometimes I know we talk about it a lot when castings come up and I've been guilty of it too, of people who are brought up and everyone's like, oh, that's the safe pick. Like that's the pick that they'll probably go with. And you hear that so many times, and 8 out of 10 times, that pick ends up doing really well in the role. And then eventually people are like, oh my God, like who else could play that? This is easily can be one of those. Like Brosnahan is wonderful. And Maisel, such a good show, but also she just brings such a charm. And I think I like Amy Adams in the role. Amy Adams is an amazing actress. But I wouldn't say was kind of that's my Lois. I kind of felt like that in Superman Returns. It's been a minute since I've had a really great Lois in the movies that I could really just identify with that character. And this is as close to me as we've gotten in a minute. So I'm super pumped about this. I think this is good.
Charlie,
I was just on Matt's point, when they came up with the short list, it kind of felt like Brosnahan of all the 6 that were going out for the 2 roles, Brosnahan as Lois Lane felt like automatic. It just kind of like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world. I'll be really surprised if this isn't what ends up happening. It really felt like it makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad to see that worked out. And Corenswet, if you did watch Pearl, it's not necessarily the kind of part that you think for Superman, but you can see how much talent there is with this guy. And there was a clip going around Twitter the last couple of days, kind of as we've been talking about this casting, as they've been rumored to, it's going to be close. We're going to have a decision soon. There's a clip from the Ryan Murphy show, Hollywood, on Netflix.
Yeah.
Which I didn't watch. He was also in Ryan Murphy's Politician, which he was very, very good in. But there was a clip from Hollywood going around where he was, trying to get this job, and he was a loan or something, and talking about being a background actor. It's a very short clip, but it has everything you look for in Clark Kent. It had this really optimistic young man just trying, thinking about all the good in the world around him, trying to make a difference for himself. It really kind of screamed Clark Kent. And so, again, I haven't seen him in a lot, but what I have seen him in, he's really, really talented. And that clip alone is enough to be like, okay, this is what they saw in Clark. This is where this is coming from, and it makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited to see 2 of them together. What their chemistry is like. Obviously, it has to be great, or they wouldn't have gotten
that's the point I want to touch on.
But I'm excited to see what they're like together.
Yeah, the chemistry is the thing I want to touch on, and Connor, I'm going to let you cook here in a second. But I know that Brosnahan can do witty banter, and she almost has that Margot Kidder from the Donner kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of like cadence we get in that retro, like that we know is not part of a newsroom anymore. But
see, that's the concern I have, is that we know she can play mid 20th century, mid Atlantic, very snappy. I need the deadline by 5, kid. You want a scoop? Here it is. If it all kind of depends on what's James Gunn's take for Superman. Is it the animated series where it's vaguely timeless and you can't really tell what era it's supposed to be?
Theory,
if it's supposed to be modern, I haven't seen her play that, bring that wit to that kind of role. So for her, it's like, I don't want it to just be Maisel again. And that's what she's best known for. And obviously she's an actress. She has range.
Right.
But my concern is, I hope you didn't just cast her because, hey, you saw Maisel and you just tell her, hey, do that. Because that for me is, that's the concern. When it comes to Corenswet, there are different kind of reactions we have to casting. Sometimes it's a complete unknown and we just go, he looks the part. Tom Holland and Spider-Man. Sometimes it's, why the hell did you cast him? And it's Keaton as Batman or Ledger as Joker. And they knock it out of the freaking park. And sometimes it's, hey, this is so obvious that how could you miss it? Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is a perfect example. This falls in the, no one knows who the hell this guy is, but he looks like he's straight off the panel. He looks like he could put on 30 pounds of muscle, and he's got the chin, he's got the hair, he looks fine. With him, it's going to entirely depend on what's Gunn's take and how is the chemistry between the two. Because if there is none, and Matt, I know you love Amy Adams, and I know you love the Snyderverse.
I do.
I never bought Cavill and Adams together. It was always just it felt like two walls trying to be romantic together. I didn't buy it.
I think Adams is a great actress. But my whole point was her Lois Lane never connected with me. So that was
and I think the argument is she's not given a lot to do.
No, I mean, I disagree. I think Man of Steel is one of my favorite takes of Lois Lane, when she's kind of like the no nonsense, the whole thing about like, are we done measuring, these, and like her kind of running around the world and piecing together who Superman is, and that why her being like his equal in that sense, that like she's the one that like actually tracks
that
him
Lois
down,
Lane was more about being Lois Lane than being Clark's girlfriend.
And
I really love that about that take. I have my own feelings about all the Snyder stuff, but I really liked Amy Adams in that character.
We all always
because it was more about who Lois Lane was and not just her relationship to Clark Kent, which I think some of the chemistry could have been lacking, or could have been better.
That line of it's always after over the first kiss. It's like, who the hell says that?
It could have been better with the chemistry, but again, I really love the direction they took with Lois Lane, and that that kind of goes to what you're talking about with Gunn's direction about what they're going to do with this franchise. I can't see it being in the past, but the term modern can be taken so many ways. I don't think this movie's going to be gritty. It's not going to be like Man of Steel where it's, kind of dark. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have that that wave we had in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, where everything had to be like really grounded and realistic, and that's kind of where Snyder really, went for it. We're not going to see that, I don't think, with Gunn's take on Superman. I think we're going to see a modern world that has some levity, but also there's kind of darkness bubbling under the surface. Like a lot of his stuff. I mean, even Guardians in Outer Space feels grounded, even though the worlds are spectacular and everything is goofy and crazy. The life feels very real, and I look at Guardians as kind of an example of what I expect to see in Superman in terms of tone and the universe he's going to play with.
But what little we have to play off of is the title being Legacy makes you go, oh, are we getting Jonathan Kent? Like, are we literally the legacy of Superman and going to future generations? But then the key art that they used for the announcement was All-Star Superman, which is this is how he dies. And this kid's 30. And he's not even 30. So you didn't cast him to kill him.
No, I don't think so. I still maintain that yes, this movie will introduce Jonathan Kent, and it will be almost like getting to know your dad type deal, and like, who is my dad and that kind of thing, and like I think that'd be interesting for modern times. So it's like a kid struggling with who he is and like all of this stuff, knowing who his dad is, and kind of laying down like almost like All-Star Superman like stories, like. Sure. Here are some stories about why your dad is who he is, and like why he's vulnerable, and why, and basically in that sense, sketching out for us, like All-Star Superman does, who is Superman from all these different perspectives. Yeah. And
Other
so
than
I think you
Woman
need somebody
of-
versatile. I think they're going to need stories about when Superman got scary or lost control, or or when he just overwhelmingly positivitied his way through some of the scariest stuff, or even with all this power, how he did something so sensitive or cool to help, like a cat in a tree or something, or spent a whole day making a little girl feel better. All that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be good. And I can see, because that Gunn loves to do stuff like that, like have a character talking. He loves to do the Ant-Man Peyton Reed type deal, like have a character talking, then spin off into some crazy story, then like cut back to be like, wait, like,
Well, there was that one time I
never-ending
rescued a
story
cat.
yet.
Hi, Mittens, and you just put them down, and then
Yeah.
back to the
And
regular.
then like never-ending story it, right? Like or not never-ending story, or Princess Bride it, like where you keep going back to the kid, like wait, what? And like
Well, and that's the thing with Corenswet is when you look at him, and when you look at you kind of look at him in Pearl or in The Politician, you can see a guy who can play a decent range of age. It's not like, oh, that guy is 30 and there's no way he could. I'm the same age as Rachel Brosnahan. You can't look at me and be like, oh yeah, you could pass for like 17, 18 in a couple of scenes. Like, I'm not gonna be 17
would
or
love
18.
to see that.
She
but no.
plays older
But-
in Maisel. Like it aims like you could be 40 and I'd buy it.
I think she feels like her age. But Corenswet is someone who I can see, like, if they need to do a couple scenes where he's 18, 19 years old, Smallville type, you can get a couple scenes like that out of him. I mean, maybe some a little technology added to it, but
without having to
Well, if you film
Samuel
that
L.
now before he
Jackson.
goes
Yeah.
in jail.
Right. Right, and then
Indiana
he
Jones
can play up
de-aging.
to 30, 35. Like I'm just saying, there's kind of an age.
there
So if
is.
you want to do that story thing, like you're talking about, where you're telling different tales of who Superman is and what he can be, I think you have a lot of opportunity to do that with somebody like this, who, can be kind of what you need him to be at different points in his life. I think there's some freedom to play with that, and I think that's part of what helps with an actor that's relatively unknown. You're not just like, oh, I know that guy. He's that guy, and I can only see him as that guy. Like Superman, kind of be who he needs to be.
Yeah.
Like that's how Cavill was.
Yeah.
Like unless you watched The Tudors, you probably didn't know who he was before Man of Steel.
He had that one movie, that Tarsum Singh crazy movie.
He was in
The Immortals?
The Immortals, yeah.
But by that
Oh,
point,
yeah,
we knew he was
wow,
gonna
yeah.
And that was just to see how ripped he was in
about
action
that.
scenes, and people were like, soul!
That fits. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a weird.
But like
movie.
on the All-Star Superman of it all, and like some of those other books that they've kind of trotted out as like, here's a movie that's got a name similar to this, or here's kind of what we're thinking. Aside from Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, most of those are so far from literal. It's not. I don't think we have to worry about Superman's death being worked in or hinted at or whatever. Like I don't think those are literal things.
It's very much
I
a
think
tonal comparison.
Yeah, like All-Star Superman is very heavy from a premise standpoint, but it's also very hopeful, and it's very like
It's
there's
very
so
folksy.
much
I
in there
think
that
folksy is a
explores
good
why
word.
that character matters and the feeling there, and that's what Gunn's been very clear about trying to get right in this whole project. And the same goes for like Brave and the Bold, and like obviously the Morrison Batman and Son stuff. Like a lot of that's going to be tonal. A lot of that's going to be like, here's the vibe we're going for, and here are the characteristics of those characters we want to bring to light. But I'm not necessarily worried about like, here's brick number 1 to 3, and here's where we're going with that story. Like that's where the Snyderverse kind of sometimes fell into a trap of trying to do those things literally, and it became over ambitious and
BVS
became
is like
overwhelming.
3 comics mashed into one. And
There's
Right. I mean,
there's a
2
lot going on
iconic stories are in one movie.
Well, I think-
and those could
and to
be
your point,
2
Matt,
movies
like,
unto their own.
All-Star Superman is about the heart of this man, not necessarily his biggest battles or his greatest achievements as a hero. It's about the heart and soul of who this person is.
Right.
And I can't imagine that's not what James Gunn is trying to accomplish with his take on this character.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it is. And people are already swooning over the height difference because Corenswet is 6'4" and Rachel Brosnahan is 5'3".
She'll be standing on a box.
So there have been a lot of ladies. I don't know if they
No,
will.
I don't think so.
I think you nail that shot with a towering Superman because you got to get that demo. There's a lot of swooners who want to come and swoon as a big, tall, powerful Superman.
Short Kings, stay united.
Yes, we will.
don't-
Let's go, baby. It's our summer.
I don't relate.
All right.
Wow.
We just took a serious turn.
Well, you think about like the romance of it, and like there's some great angles you're gonna have, for the big kiss.
I'm a big proponent, and I've said this many times, that the long shot is the medium to long shot is your friend in a Superman movie. Like the shots I remember of Donner Superman are not like all, or like Superman Returns, Man of Steel. The close up ones aren't my favorites. It's the long shots of seeing impossible things. Superman flying around the Earth a million times, or just zipping through the sky across like in Iceland as a big streak and seeing that from far away. I'd love to see him just like fly through a mountaintop or something and could get where he's going, because he's so like, I got to get here, and just like a sequence of just him just like literally like a bullet through anything in his way just to get to like his son or to save Lois or do whatever it is, while somehow still like saving people on the way, But I think that's your friend. So I think the look of them and him being like strapping tall guy, I think is, as much as I don't want to support that lifestyle or mentality, I get it, and we're trying to sell tickets here, so you do need that classic. I think, and to your point about Snyder, I think there's a whole, I would love, now that you guys said that, I would love to do tangent, like a whole separate discussion about directors and filmmakers who work with their wives and how they, like Nolan and Snyder both like constantly work with their wives, significant others, and how that represents in the movies. Like Nolan's always killing off his guys, or always have dead wives.
Yeah,
like,
I'd have questions for James Gunn, because if his wife shows up in this, it's like, do you torture her again like you did in Guardians 3?
Oh yeah, and like Snyder's like always, all the women in his films are always like also professionally on the level, like Leonidas and his queen, like Amy Adams and Superman, like it's always there. Deborah's like, over her shoulder, like, what are you doing? Yeah.
When it comes to height, though, like, I think the biggest point.
But I got tangent. I just want to say, I think that they do, because one thing that we never discuss about the Donner Superman was that the Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder romance was the theme music. That whole thing. The theme still to this day. Them flying through the air. The actual romance of Superman and Lois Lane is really something we never got back. Like, I'm sorry, Kate Bosworth, but like it wasn't in Superman Returns. And as much as I love the Snyderverse, it really wasn't. Their whole thing was kind of like a bantery, professional, kind of, stoic, hinted, heat under the surface kind of romance, which is fine. But the Superman Lois relationship and their love literally does help sustain like this whole DC universe. And so we do need to do all that classic corny Donner stuff. We need to feel like we can fly. We need to feel like, this is like the greatest, romance we want to root for. I think that's what TV has done so well. Like Superman and Lois, those two actors, like Taylor Hoechlin and what's her name?
So underrated.
Yeah. Like they nailed it. You believe them, and they nail it in a modern sense. You believe them as two modern working parents who have all these responsibilities, but also trying to raise these kids, but fundamentally love each other. And so I think that is, and I'm sure that this was what the screening process was all about. And I hope they got the best kind of Superman Lois.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's where I get the point I was coming at. It's like, that's important. The height difference really doesn't matter. I mean,
he's going to be holding her like this anyway.
Yeah, he's going to be lifting
her. The height difference isn't going to
play
a big factor.
I want to come back to this when this movie comes out, in that scene where he takes little tiny Lois by her waist and slowly, gently lifts her in the air, and she's just staring at his chest, floating in the air, and half, I don't even know what we call this demo anymore, but half of that demographic, that I call them swooners, are just going to be like, in the theater, like, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to see
There's a recent SNL sketch with Travis Kelce where it's like, sometimes women just want to be picked up, and they just bring out NFL players.
Connor, this is the second time you've talked about the Kansas City Chiefs on the podcast.
As they should.
Oh, stop.
We need to start a drinking game.
But, I mean, I think that isn't, I mean, as corny as it is, I mean, getting back to that, because the other times, like, the Snyder films came out in this time where that whole thing about, women are not supposed to be like damsel stress, when we've kind of weirdly come back around to, like you said, there is now women saying, you look, we said all this, and like, yes, but at the end, sometimes, yes, get me a big dude, pick me up. Like,
but
I want that, and I think we need to feed that in this
Donner
movie
Superman really is the model, and James Gunn has talked about the influence that's had, and that Lois was everything. I mean, there were times where she was rescued by Superman, but also she wasn't a damsel in distress. She had a real character and arc and soul, and that Margaret Kidder's Lois Lane is so great. And
I don't know. That hasn't aged super well.
The whole
for me.
read my mind thing.
I'm not saying every single thing in the movie
movies.
from the 70s has aged perfectly, but
I've gone back and watched
overall,
those movies
I think the animated series carried that forward.
I think
some of Lois Lane's reactions and decisions in that movie.
Right, like I said, it's from the 70s. Not everything's gonna age perfectly, but overall,
but they
as
made
a character,
she's remembered as feisty. Like
she wasn't just there to be rescued.
We remember Margot Kidder as a feisty, like female character. It's not. She does make. I mean, the helicopter, the screaming. There's a lot of screaming and just not saving herself. But that was the time period. But her personality at least was still kind of like feisty.
Yeah, I get it.
And everything.
I mean, look, this is coming from someone who thinks the current books have actually captured that perfectly. I think the books in a lot of ways capture that better than movies have done. Period. Ever. I can go to like 5 runs, in the past and now, especially like the current Action Comics run, and then also Williamson's Superman run, capture that beautifully. Like that relationship is done so well in the comics and has been multiple times. Like I don't think any movie to me has ever captured it as well as comics have. Animated series would probably be the closest one. So for me, I'm still kind of looking for that. I've had different takes, which I've always loved. Like I love Smallville's Lois. I love Superman and Lois. I think Tyler Hoechlin as Superman and like their dynamic is fantastic. So there's been other versions that I've dug, but as far as movies go, I just and also none of them have really resonated.
It's not Lois and Superman, but I look at how the relationship between Star-Lord and Gamora evolved through James Gunn's writing, especially in 3, how they handled a relationship and a guy who wanted to be the hero and the rescuer and someone who did not need that, and the acceptance of what love can be and how love can look different. And that just makes me really hopeful to see what they're going to do, because I think there's a really great perspective that can be brought to this relationship.
I hope that somebody sat down and, like we were saying, I hope they really centered on Rachel Brosnahan, not just because of Marvelous Miss Maisel, but I don't know. A lot of people I know didn't see it. I think you might have seen it for screenings, but I'm Your Woman, that movie she did. Okay, so she did this movie a couple of years back. I think it was during the pandemic, and it's called I'm Your Woman. Yeah, it's 2020. And it got kind of buried, but it was this neo-crime film, and basically she's the wife of this professional thief, and something goes bad with a job, and so he kind of vanishes and everybody comes looking for her to kind of square like what's wrong. And I think this was good because she was like a mom. She was dealing with this very complicated man who she kind of loved but was kind of a scumbag, and it's her like going on this weird kind of crime world odyssey to try to get out of this situation. And she ends up having to like shoot down some drug dealers in a car and walk away from like the scene and get away from the cops. But it showed a lot of range for her.
I need to watch that movie.
It's a good movie. Like it was her kind of vehicle to say awesome. Like, she can do a lot more than. Sure. And it's like heavy because she has to go to a lot of crazy places, meet a lot of unsavory characters, kind of navigate her way through this world that she's not really prepared for. She knew about but didn't really ever want to step in. And so the part of it is her dealing with like this complicated man and this complicated world that comes with him and all that stuff, and her being kind of like having it in that movie each step, and she gets harder and grittier and being like, because she almost gets killed, really bad things almost happen to her, until she finally is just like, you know what, like, and is picking up a gun and willing to go out there and meet the wolves out on a dock and be like, all right, is what I hope they saw, and we're like,
and remember too, like that it's not the stuff that she was in. Obviously, Maisel, I'm sure, plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
But the trade reports with the casting this week specifically mention. I think it was THRs. I could be wrong. But there was specific mention made of the 6 tapes, of the 6 auditions. Brosnahan's was the one that blew everyone away from the beginning. Immediately, Brosnahan blew everyone away with her audition, and so. Again, while it's important to look at what she's been in before, we don't know what that audition tape looked like. So we don't know what she's going to bring to the table. And they clearly saw something in her that really wowed them, especially because they brought in another actress for the second round of auditions and didn't even bring her back in. Makes me wonder if Mackie's going to be in another part in the movie.
Sure.
But it kind of sounds like from the get-go, Brosnahan was choice number 1 because of her audition, not necessarily because of what she's done in the past. So I mean, just that, and I think that speaks to her versatility and some maybe of what we haven't seen her bring to the table, which I'm really, really excited to see what she has that led to such a big audition.
Oddly enough, I think what nails it best is Flashpoint Lois Lane is like one of my favorite depiction of Lois Lane's in the actual Flashpoint books.
Oh, I was like, in the movie?
No. Flashpoint books and the animated movie when she's like behind enemy lines,
yes, that is
spying on the Amazons and like doing that whole nine. I was like, yeah, that's Lois Lane to me. Like Lois Lane is that reporter. So
a very good Lois.
I hope they give her that kind of grit and stuff, and I hope it's like her always doing stuff in Superman, having to just help her out a couple times.
Yeah.
Like Hank Hill, the whole thing, right? Like Peggy Hill, great character, great comparison about, and I love that dynamic, how she is just like so passionate and forward, but she doesn't always have it right. And Hank Hill has to kind of like do that Inspector Gadget brain thing, like, and guide her along without like, ruining her ego or make her feel bad because he loves her and he's just doing that. So I hope it's more of that, and hope she like barks him around and leads him around, and he's just like, yeah. Or I love there in the comics, as Matt is saying, the comics do a good job of, now that it's all out in the open, like she knows he's Superman, it's all out there. They have a lot of like conversations where they just try to meet and like have a drink together or a meal. And those scenes are some of my favorite, when Lois is trying to deal with, and Clark's like all like nervous, and she's like, okay, go, all right. And she's like all understanding, he has to like run away and like go do something and be like, I'm sorry. And he was like, I'm back. And that kind of, I love that, and I hope they nail that about, even if you are Superman in the world, you're still messing up for your lady. It's still like a complicated thing.
And then like I love like one scene where she's actually like, she's working on a deadline. Like she's working on something for the planet and stuff like that. And he comes in from his, thing, and she's like, I'm focused. Like this is my space. Like you need to kind of go do your own thing. And like, we've all been there. Right, like it's
especially since the pandemic, right?
When your significant other is like, "Hey, I'm in a thing," like either like, "Hey, can you take care of the kid?" or "Hey, can you go do this?" Like you need to kind of entertain yourself for a while. Like, all right, cool. So like, I love that it feels like a real couple, and so I hope they capture some of that.
Yeah, same here. I don't want to.
Do they start as a couple? You think? Or
I don't want to. I was just about to say, I don't want to have to do the whole secret identity.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
We've done that, and they even make jokes about it everywhere now, but it's so hard to sustain and respect this lady as like this hardcore investigative reporter, but doesn't see this thing right in front of her face. Like they're just so incredulous.
Reeves' whole like take off the glasses and like the posture changes. Like that was the best way I think you could have visualized that. But otherwise, it's like, seriously,
yeah,
come on.
And it's like I think like what Matt says is so much more interesting to me. It's like Clark and Lois living in this small, Metropolis apartment because they still both work as reporters.
Salary.
Nobody's really home, like doing stuff, and them just trying to like have a date night or something like would be much more interesting as an opening. Like him doing a crazy battle sequence, her like on a deadline, him zooming in, being like, "I'm here with flowers," and her being like, "No, I just got this big scoop. Like I'm gonna be here all night," and him just being like, "Oh, flowers droop," and like out in the thing, and like seeing Superman then just cut to Superman cleaning dishes, like watching reruns of The Circle or something, and like that's hilarious, right? And you're just like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter how super you are. There's like normal relationship stuff, and add a kid into that, and like bath times and all that, and there's, I know every 3 dads right here, we would be like, oh, hell yeah. Like,
I am the only non-married with no kids
for now. You
here.
just moving in, bro. Yeah. Calm down. We could be right back here in a year, and you're going to be like, so tell me about bath time again. So I hope it's that, because, I mean, that seems so much more interesting, right? Like, we've seen the other stuff before. And if you're going to do the retro stuff but bring in modern sensibilities. We've all been crammed in with significant others in a pandemic. We all had to figure out home office sharing and all this stuff. There's so much of that that's relatable, right? And yeah. Do you guys want to get to the dark part? You want to talk about, can this movie even succeed?
Nope.
Because of Snyderverse, bros.
Or about the Flash. We're no longer talking about Superman Legacy.
No, Superman Legacy. No, I'm talking about, we're wrapping it into the Flash too, but even now, like, I did the article about DC fans reacting, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is so positive, this is good, and I started doing it. Yeah, I got to the wrong threads real quick, where people were like, kill James Gunn, DC Studios, bring Henry Cavill back on their ashes, and I'm like, really? Like, okay. I hung with the Snyder thing a long time. but guys, like, I ain't going full graphic with you, okay? Like, I step out of the Skrull faction. I'm like, all right, no, I'm gonna act like a human again. Like,
I mean,
it's
the guy
over.
got to spend a full movie budget remaking a movie that already existed to release solely on a streaming service, just because his fans asked for it. So, like, I feel like we got a victory. You know, like that was a victory. Like, that is an unprecedented thing to have happened.
Yeah.
To a filmmaker. And it's it's not my favorite thing, but I think it's really cool that a filmmaker got to do that. Got to spend a studio's money remaking something to make it the way they wanted it to be. That happened. Could there have been an ending to it? Yes, but that's not how stuff works. The fact that he got to do that at all is really cool. Like, we should be able to move on now.
Yeah.
But that was always the argument
Yeah.
back then when that whole thing was being debated, was always the, give an inch, take a mile. It was always that thing.
If you give a mouse a
if
cookie,
if you give it to them, they will then want, hey, look, this is see what you can do, and so now you should go do this. It's never good enough.
Even Snyder
and for
has
that very vocal minority, they're never going away. But that's also perfectly fine. Like, they can scream on their platforms and do whatever, and that's fine. Like, that's will always be, as someone who, look, we're all in experts in different fandoms, and honestly, the same thing happens in every single other fandom. It's just connected to something else. It's that way in anime. I know Kofi's dealt with it in anime. I've dealt with it in Power Rangers and gaming. It's like it's always in movies and TV. It's just very vocal fan bases, and then a vocal minority kind of splinters off, and then you have to deal with this forever. There's always going to be a group that's like, no, the current thing sucks. My thing was better. Bring my thing back.
It'll be 2065, and there will still be replies to Lucasfilm social media.
It doesn't mean, though, that this can't be successful.
Oh, yeah.
They're not related.
It's always going to be a thing.
But I feel like the Snyder stuff is different, because I feel like even we never know how many it is, but I feel like there are still targeted campaigns
and it reached a level, for both positively and negatively, reached a level that I don't think I've seen anything else reach before.
And I think Snyder was stoking the flames a little more than we've ever blamed him for. I think he kind of skirted past that, and even he has stopped. Where he's just no more leaks, no more haters, more
shows. I think we can move on.
No more, hey, this is my social network that only I'm promoting, and I'm going to give you all this extra information. That's stopped.
No, saying Rebel Moon, folks, Rebel Moon. And I wonder if it's going to stop if Rebel Moon's a huge hit. I almost want it to be a huge hit, just so everybody who loves Snyder can go over there, be happy.
I mean, it's going to be a huge hit,
and
it's relative because it's Netflix. So a huge hit for Netflix is.
But I'm just saying, I mean, like a huge culture hit. I hope it makes everybody happy, and all the Snyder fans are happy, and they go over there and they're like, now we're on this Rebel Moon tip. And like, forget the DC. And I hope it just all flips to DC's old, forget it.
But
we're on the Rebel Moon. Come on, Charlie, let me hope. All right.
I mean, I'm with you. I hope, but it's never going to happen.
I feel like more people should be mad that Cavill's leaving Witcher than that he's never getting back into Superman.
We'll be talking on Friday.
Hey, Matthew.
He's leaving all of it, and he's going to Warhammer. Which, and I'm sure the Warhammer 40K people will be absolutely thrilled.
I mean, I'm still surprised people care about The Witcher, but that's a different conversation.
I'm not taking that bait, Charlie.
Yeah, we're going to move on. So,
sorry.
Last part of our little bonus here is the official numbers are in, and it looks like Connor wins. The Flash is estimated to earn only $300 million worldwide.
Which is a weird thing to say, only.
No, but
I get context is the most important thing here,
but
as just one single human being, like only $300 million, but the movie cost what? 200 plus to make before advertising.
Honestly, it's in the weeds of anywhere from 2 to 275. I'd estimate, between reshoots, marketing, what marketing you could do,
marketing,
like
bump it
all
up
that
well
stuff.
over 300.
They are going to. They're estimated to lose at least like 300 million on this, and people have been speculating and going nuts about it, about everything. You can listen to Connor's whole diatribe. There's a whole list of reasons why this could be happening, given just by him in our Flash spoilers episode. I happen to think that this isn't just systemic to the Flash. I think and I wrote an article about this, about movie theater demand. I think we just really grossly overestimated 2023. Like there was this bottleneck, and then everybody was like 2023. And even when the pandemic happened, we didn't want to believe it, so we all said no, we can do it faster than that. But people were saying it would be 2023 before we get back to like a regular summer movie lineup and stuff. And so this was that year. But I think that clearly clearly, like, the demand to go out to movie theaters is not as high as the amount of supply they're putting out. June is the kind of case that I'm pointing to. It's not to say that people don't want to see movies in theaters, but it's more, and I say this in the article, if you grew up in the 1990s, you remember a very different pattern of blockbusters. Movies came out, and you knew you had like 2 or 3 months, like the whole summer, to go down to your movie theater and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to see that thing that they put out. And you had that long. There was no rush. It was like a year at least before home video, or HBO, or a year before HBO got it, and then like another 6 months to a year before home video came out.
Or it got on TV.
Yeah, or it got on TV. And so you had these longer theatrical runs where we weren't just first weekend obsessed. It was just like over time and over like a month or two, how much did that movie trickle in and make? And I feel like we're getting back to that because people don't rush out as much. Like, I know people in June who were just saying, yeah, I think I am going to go check out that Fast X. Like, I love it.
I mean, do you remember a month ago, 2 months ago, we were talking about how the Guardians opening weekend was soft.
Yeah.
And not great for Marvel or not great for the Guardians franchise. And then what happened?
Yeah.
Well, Guardians had one of the best drop-offs ever for a Marvel movie and went 3, 4, 5 weeks. Just this past weekend, it was what, third?
Yeah.
Like fourth? So it was still really
there.
high over a month. We're almost to the digital release at this point, and it's still making money every weekend. Like, and it's gotten to 800 million globally. Like, we are, I think, to your point. I mean, Mario was that way. Mario obviously had a huge opening weekend, but Mario sustained week after week. Spider-Verse has been climbing every week. Even Elemental. Yeah. Only had, a 37% drop off week 1 to week 2. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, it flopped its first weekend, and it might still lose money for Pixar.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks in, we're not looking at it as the disaster that we were after 1 week.
Exactly.
But like,
people are going to theaters week after week.
Like, I want to see Elemental. Yeah. Like, we want to actually take Ember. Like, we want to go see, because of course, obviously we want to take her because the character's named same name as her, because this is going to be great. Right. But also it's Pixar and everything like that. But like, even in this industry, and as many movies as like we need to see for work and things, I cannot justify paying so much in a concentrated period of time on just movies. I'm sorry.
That's what I said.
It's also the proliferation of gaming has come so far. TV and interactive media and board games, card games, all the different things that are vying for your attention and your money. And there's so much of it. This month alone has so many movies, so many video games that have been anticipated. It's all wanting your money. And that's on top of going outside activities, like going to see Taylor Swift in concert. Like, all these things are commanding your money. And on top of an economy that is not back yet to where it was, people also have to divert their time and are making decisions based on what they really want, as opposed to like, I'm just going to go see every new movie that comes out. There was a time I bought every CD on Tuesday.
That's a great point, Matt. Time is huge. You talk about me just becoming a dad. That's the thing I've really learned the past few months. Like, time has become so much more valuable.
It's the most valuable thing.
And even my family's go to a lot of movies. I go to a lot by myself. I'm just a movie person, and like, I have Regal Unlimited, so I don't pay a lot to go to movies, but I can't go to a movie every other day because I have to watch my kid, and I have to spend time with I want to spend time with my kid, want to spend time with my wife. I don't want to use that time in a theater by myself all the time. So I have to be
down for 2 hours,
selective about what it is I want to see and when. I still haven't seen Flash because I haven't had an opportunity.
You're the case point that I said in the article. This was simply the most this and Transformers were two of the easily most skippable movies. Not that because you didn't like them, we have this reflex now that we did not have, especially before the pandemic, to just say, oh, I'll just catch this in a couple weeks, a month, and on streaming.
Because I knew Spider-Verse was coming out.
I know this is my streaming.
I was never going to miss that. I was never going to miss Spider-Verse opening weekend. I was going to make sure I set aside time.
Families were not missing Little Mermaid. There were a lot of families who weren't missing that in the theater and paid for that. My family did that. My family did Mario, Spider-Verse, and Little Mermaid in rapid succession.
You prioritized,
right?
For what your family wanted to see. I'm still going to see Transformers. Yeah. That is like the movie.
Someone said the words G.I. Joe, and I lined up a spot to see Transformers that weekend.
So, but that's like,
and I don't regret any of that. And they've been enjoyable movies. Right. And I said their cinema scores. At worst, they've been middling with critics, but their cinema scores are both really high for these franchises. And it's just again, it's too much demand. I mean, too much supply for not enough demand. Like there's just too much.
That's
and
where
June got bottlenecked so badly. We saw that. Like, yeah, when you're getting weeks where it's like Flash, or Transformers,
It was Flash, Transformers, and Fast X were all
Fast X,
offering
yeah.
the exact same thing, which is big spectacle IP. And what killed this was the latest of those to come out, and the other two were kind of, this could have been skipped, and then Flash, the reviews hit, and it's like, oh, this is a problem.
I don't even know if it's that as much as, like, I don't think Ezra Miller stuff played into it really,
I don't
because
think it was
regular
that.
people
It
don't
was
pay
just-
attention.
People saw the movie
I
and
don't
went,
think it was,
"It's not that good."
they're ending the DCU. Like, I don't think that this movie was, I think what you said, it was a lot of stuff, but it was, when you start advertising Michael Keaton, and there's a Supergirl, and there's a Flash that people may or may not have known existed, and it's like, if you're just a regular person watching this, you're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. Some people might be like, oh, Michael Keaton, I'm going to go. But others are like, this is too much. I don't need to, like, I'm confused by watching this trailer. I don't need to go see this movie. There's too much happening.
Yeah, I was watching, but I predict this is going to have a major resurgence when it hits Max. Like, people are going to see this, and there are going to be a lot of people who think, oh, you're going to have the people like, oh, this wasn't as bad as I heard it was. And
then there's going to be a lot of screenshots of the baby in the microwave and go, this was a
no,
movie
that's going to
that was
live
put
on in
theaters.
infamy. Yeah, that was just
That's already
the thing
happening now.
Yeah, no, people are not over that, and
thing.
like and I know it was uncomfortable for us, but the general public is not loving that. That's the thing. Like, your editors really screwed you. You should have cut that.
Yeah.
That scene is terrible.
Yeah, so that's always going to live in infamy. We can't go back on that. That's just stuck.
Can I say that?
I described
We can loop
that
a million
scene.
Having
times
not seen
around,
the
and we're
movie,
not.
I've heard so much about the baby in the microwave that I'm really excited just to see
You
how
will.
horrible
Watch
it
and
is.
go, that's
You're
it,
gonna
and
find
why?
out how
Like,
you've
how
changed.
terrible it is.
This is another opportunity. You're gonna find out how you've changed as a parent again, because before you would have laughed at that, and now you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just like, it is built up to be this like such a horrible thing. I'm like, I can't wait to see how bad they mess this up.
It's not
like
good.
I'm excited to see how stupid it is.
It's very stupid.
Yeah, like I'm stoked about that. I'm not going to.
And it's your first impression. That's what makes
it
it worse. It's your first impression of the
All
movie.
right, but yeah, I mean, the Flash is going down. Yeah, it's going down. It's going down hard. So yeah, all right, Connor. There you go.
It's a tax break.
This should have been scrapped, and Batgirl should have come out.
Damn straight it should have.
And I've yet to
That's
been
the
proven
whole
wrong.
point.
I mean, it is
whole
crazy
time.
what we're hearing now. Like, we could have gotten like Michael Keaton would have been the new Nick Fury of the DCEU.
We'd have
We would have
Brendan
gotten a
Fraser
Batman Beyond
as
movie.
Firefly. It would have had Leslie
Firefly,
Grace as
Brendan
Batgirl.
Fraser, who's just killing it again and just came back on the
Stupid.
scene. Y'all are trying to hurt Brendan Fraser up there in Warner Brothers Discovery.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's weird, but
I mean, stuff's going to keep trickling out about that movie. Like, as long as we have these jobs, we're going to learn new
That
things
said,
about Batgirl.
Oh, yeah.
Sasha
And see
Supergirl
new
rules.
photos we haven't seen. Think about how many photos David Ayer has just of Jared Leto being
no,
the
we
Joker.
can't. I was discussing
And-
this with somebody the other day. We never will. No, they held all those screenings, and I'm pretty sure Zaslav had like a military firing squad behind the studio at the last like Fran screening. Was like, everybody, great work. You did a good job. Good job. And they took every reel of that film, and they were like, go ahead. And they were just,
No, that
Untouchable
that exists.
every
That
reel.
exists. I mean, think about like the story of Toy Story 2 was a movie that movie had like died. Someone at Pixar made a mistake and deleted the entire movie from the servers, and one producer had it at her house
I'm shocked.
and was able to save the movie because she had saved the backup.
I
There
did
is
not know that.
with the way technology has evolved, Batgirl exists on someone's computer.
I'm shocked we haven't gotten a Deadpool style leak where it's like, who could have possibly leaked this? And then it's out.
I said,
No, I
it's
mean,
going to trickle as
it's
long as we have
serious,
jobs in
but
this
I
industry.
just if
it's
you
gonna
don't know
trickle.
the legalities, like, yeah, it is serious. If
Right,
that
that's
thing
what, it's not
ever
going to just come out.
It's not.
gonna
It's like the
slowly
knock
just,
list
you
in
know,
Mission Impossible. If that thing ever shows up, like, it's like, oh, dead reckoning time. Like, we're all
like at some point we're going to see just a still
Yeah.
from some random account on Reddit that has never been heard of before. That's it's impossible to trace or something. And it's going to be Brendan Fraser in a Firefly suit, and we're going to be like, oh man, what did we miss?
Listen, man,
and it's going to
after-
start the news cycle over again.
If Discord can hack the Pentagon, like anything's possible, guys.
Yo, man, after hearing from Marvel Secret Invasion the stories of what Marvel Studios does to people, like, David Zaslav's coming to your house, the hit squad's coming to your house if you try to leak Batgirl. You're going to
I think
pillow
you're
over
giving
your
David
face,
Zaslav
and
too
there's a
much credit.
pistol at the end of the pillow. But, all right, we're going to keep an eye on this. This is The Flash, and it looks like, next time we talk about this, it'll be on its Max premiere.
I mean,
so-
fortunately, it doesn't matter.
No.
No.
I mean, Warner Brothers has the money. they're going to eat this loss. Andy Muschietti is not sweating over it. He got a great new job.
Yeah.
He got a great new job.
Must be nice.
We probably won't see Ezra Miller and some stuff for a bit. And, the other actors in the movie, Michael Keaton's fine. And DCU's starting over. Like, it's none of this really matters in the long run.
And if Brave and the Bold is bad, I'm going to tell y'all, I warned you about Muschietti.
I mean,
but
the
nobody
first
wanted to
It
listen.
movie is fantastic. So
And the second one?
is okay.
Less
I like the
fantastic.
second one.
It's
What's wrong with
okay.
the second one?
Although that scene that they showed in the trailer.
It's not my favorite movie of all time, but I mean,
I'm saying a lot of the Flash, from the way y'all talk about it, it doesn't seem like necessarily a direction issue.
No, it
No,
wasn't.
there are some directions.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are.
Why the hell is this on screen?
When a movie's a mess, everyone has a part to play in that.
Yeah,
but
we're
like,
not going to get into this because Connor will go on for days.
Oh,
but
I
I'm just
will.
saying, like, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's a failure on one person's part. So
No, it's
I do bet Brave and the Bold is going to be a proving ground. But at the same time, he has made Warner Brothers a lot of money with it.
He's
so
1 and 2.
Now, Brave and the Bold,
he's
though,
got,
hits with a baby scene. Then we're going to have an issue.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
again,
it'll make
if it's
sense
bad, then
if
it's like,
people are throwing knives at a baby when Damian Wayne is getting raised by the League of
I was
Assassins.
gonna say,
At least that
there's
makes
a bunch
sense.
of babies about to fall
The
into a
baby
labyrinth
should like
pit,
ninja
and,
chop.
like,
Yeah,
because
she's
it's
gonna be
dangerous.
a baby.
and
we
most
get
good
another,
directors have made a stinker here and there. Like most
and
good
he's
directors.
got 1 good one and 2 bad ones.
No, Mama.
So he's on a-
Mama was real good. That's what got him.
Mama
a
was
show.
real good.
Yeah, Mama was real good.
And
also
It
gave
Chapter
us
2
Jamie
was
Lannister,
okay.
bro. Come on.
It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Yeah.
But like,
But that
and
was
he-
the Stephen King of it all, man. You can't make a great.
Oh, he got
Nobody's
the-
made a
he
great
got the
It Part
weird-
2. They're
he got-
all bad.
I'm
He got
just
the weirdest
saying-
part of that one.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying
Like,
this
you
one
swerved through
movie,
that.
I don't believe defines
No.
a filmmaker, and it's never going to be that way, unless again it was a troubled production and the filmmaker kind of took it all down with him. What was it? The guy he was.
Josh
he did
Trank?
no The Descent, and then he
Neil
made Hellboy,
Marshall.
Oh, yeah.
and he like a lot of Hellboy fell on him, like
Yeah.
disappearing for weeks at a time, and we've seen him just make his own independent movies with his wife since then, and they've released exclusively on Shudder. So like, we can see a director kind of make a mess of something and then struggle to recover from it. I don't think that's the case with Muschietti here.
But
You
both
know,
Muschietti
he's
are
proven
sitting
enough.
fine. Him
I
and his
think
wife
that
are
we'll-
fine. They're another interesting director, producer pair. They're
I
doing
thought it
fine.
was his sister.
It's his sister. You're right. I don't want to say wife. I keep making it creepy. So I said wife for the other two, and I keep forgetting that it's his sister. And I'm not. Hey, search the internet. I'm not the only one. All right, that'll do it for this bonus round episode. We've gotten deep enough into the quagmire of DC for now. I'm going to go wash myself off, get my head right, and get ready for our Friday show. If you are just now tuning in for these bonus round episodes, be sure to subscribe to Comic Book Nation on all your major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/comicbook, all one word, -nation. And we put up new episodes every Friday, live shows at 12 noon Eastern on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, where we hope you will join in, watch with us, and join our growing community of Comic Book Nation fans, because we have really great fans, and we're also trying to plan more fan interaction things to kind of connect with them. But for right now, make sure you plug into the main show if you want to talk to any of us individually or argue with us. We always love your perspective. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Connor KCCB.
And I'm at Charlie Ridgely.
Hey, you can find me at Matt Aguilar, CB.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Comic Books Nation's bonus round episode discussing the casting of Superman Legacy and the future of the DC Universe. We'll see you back on the regular show. Peace.